You're watching a Highwire Media podcast.
Hello, Cowboy fans, and welcome to the Big D Breakdown, your source for all things Dallas Cowboys news, rumors, and the latest headlines. Before we do that, give me your thoughts on all the topics we cover this week, and if there's anything I got wrong, anything I missed, let me know. And with that, let's dive into today's first topic. So the Quinnen Williams trade has already reshaped the Cowboys defense in one massive way. There are a lot of different reasons why the Dallas Cowboys decided to make the trade for Quinnen Williams at the deadline. First and foremost, he's an incredible player in the prime of his career, and even if the Cowboys don't make the playoffs this season, he's the type of foundational player the franchise can build a defense around moving forward. But another factor as to why the Cowboys made this move is that they believe his presence could impact the players around him. One such player is Osa Odorizzi, whom the Cowboys paid a ton of money for this offseason. He's always been a solid player, but he's never played next to a player like Williams, and he's already unlocking parts of his game. Williams was dominant in his debut with the Cowboys, racking up 1.5 sacks and a career-high 5 quarterback hits. But he wasn't the only defensive tackle for Dallas who had a career day. Odorizzi led the team in pressures with 8, which was also his personal best according to PFF. He was the team's highest-graded defender with a grade of 90.6. Osa was incredible with Williams on and off the field on Monday, and a big reason why is that he was fresh. Rather than playing 51 snaps like he did in Week 9 against Arizona, Odorizzi played 40 snaps, 34 of which came on passing downs. He wasn't asked to eat up double teams in the run game, and instead could focus solely on getting to Geno Smith. The game script obviously helped out there as the Cowboys held a double-digit lead for most of the game, but there is no doubt that the heavy rotation at defensive tackle helped Odorizzi. He no longer has to be the guy in the defensive tackle room. Instead, he can fit into his role and be part of a deep rotation of pass rushers. And that room should only improve once Solomon Thomas and Perrion Winfrey return from their injuries. The Cowboys activated Winfrey from injured reserve on Tuesday, so he could make his season debut this Sunday against the Eagles. The acquisition of Williams can be a force multiplier for the Cowboys, and we are already seeing the impact it's having on Odorizzi. If that can continue for the final 7 games of the season, don't be surprised if this defense improves much faster than anyone anticipates. Having multiple defensive tackles who can create quick pressure is a cheat code in the NFL, and that was on full display in Week 12. Now let's see if they can do that against the Eagles and their dominant offense on Sunday. And now we're going to take a look. At 5 plays that helped the Cowboys defeat the Raiders. The Dallas Cowboys got back onto the football field and back in the win column, coming out of their bye week with a victory over the struggling Raiders. In truth, this game was never close, and the 33-16 final score doesn't reflect how lopsided this one really was. These 5 plays were instrumental in the Cowboys pulling ahead early. So, right off the bat, Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams sack Geno Smith. The Cowboys offense did not start the game off right. After going 3 and out on their first drive, the second drive resulted in a strip sack that set the Raiders up in the red zone. An already maligned Dallas defense was backed up in their own territory to start the drive. What happened next was huge. Geno Smith dropped back to pass and was quickly swarmed by both Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams, who both brought him down. It was a loss of 7 that immediately backed Las Vegas up and directly led to a 3rd and long pass, which fell incomplete. That sack was monumental in forcing a field goal from the Raiders on this drive. Without that big loss of yardage, the Raiders may have marched in that short distance needed for 6, but instead, they only got 3. Then, Quinnen Williams gets another sack. When the Cowboys finally woke up offensively and scored their first touchdown in the game, they put them up 10-6. At that point, the defense had given up consecutive field goals, playing well overall, but not getting off the field quickly. The next drive started similarly. A couple big runs got the ball to the Dallas 47, threatening another score. But on 2nd and 10, Williams flew through the line of scrimmage and brought down Smith for his first full sack as a Cowboy. That immediately led to a 3rd and long, which in turn led to a punt. The sack from Williams blew up what was looking like another scoring drive and ultimately bought time for the Cowboys to rip off their second of 3 straight touchdowns. And then the Cowboys go on fourth down and score. Speaking of that touchdown, it almost didn't happen. Dallas moved the ball fairly well after the punt set by Williams, but 2 straight plays were stopped for no gain at the Las Vegas 14. Prescott then dumped off the third down pass to Hunter Lupke, who rumbled forward for 9 yards, coming up just shy of the marker. That turned out to be just enough to convince Brian Schottenheimer, who has been one of the most conservative coaches in the league this year, with fourth down decisions, to go for it. Prescott found and uncovered Jake Ferguson in the end zone for a touchdown, paying off the gamble in a big way. Lupke deserves credit for making the fourth down decision easier, and Schottenheimer deserves credit for doing what needed to be done. A field goal here would have kept the game a one-score affair, but the touchdown marked the state of the Cowboys pulling away. And then, number 4, a missed face mask leads to an interception. The Raiders' offense got right back to their usual ways, throwing a lot, moving the ball with relative ease. Brock Bowers started to take over with several big catches to move the chains, and a quick check down pass to Ashton Jeanty picked up another first down at the Dallas 31. On the replay of the tackle made on him, though, it was revealed that his face mask was pulled as he went down. The Cowboys got away with it, avoiding a 15-yard penalty that would have cut the field in half. And on the very next play, Smith's pass was tipped up by Kenneth Murray and right into the hands of Marquise Bell. This was another defensive play that greatly changed the pace of the game, preventing the Raiders from scoring what felt like a sure 6 points. The fact that they nearly gave Las Vegas a free 15 yards instead only adds to the weight of this moment. And number 5, pass interference saves a third down failure. The interception, which came shortly before the 2-minute warning, offered a perfect chance to shut down the Raiders before halftime, but they needed to score on that ensuing drive. Things started with an incomplete deep shot to George Pickens that was nearly picked, and then Javonte Williams was dropped for a loss, bringing up a 3rd and long. Prescott targeted CeeDee Lamb a few yards beyond the first down marker, but he was unable to make the catch through heavy contact. The officials took a beat as Lamb looked around for a flag, and then the yellow came flying. Pass interference was assessed, and the Cowboys got a first down out of it. 3 plays later, Pickens had multiple defenders eating his dust en route to a 37-yard touchdown that effectively ended the game. But they came dangerously close to a 3-and-out punt just before the game-clinching score. And you thought we were done with 5? No, I got a bonus one for you. A crazy punt that sets up a safety. The game was effectively over by halftime, but there was a brief moment where panic started to creep in for Cowboy fans. The Raiders scored their first touchdown of the night early in the fourth quarter, trimming the score to 31-16. Then Dallas went 3-and-out. There were just under 12 minutes when Brian Anger punted the ball, and one more touchdown would make things a one-score game. Then came the punt. Anger's punt took a friendly bounce going backwards before returner Trey Tucker inexplicably fielded it while backpedaling. Cowboys surrounded him and quickly tackled him, downing the ball at the Raiders' own 2-yard line. A false start backed them up further. And then Donovan Izuruku came unblocked for the safety, which quickly extinguished any hopes of a comeback for the Raiders. Still, there was an opening there for an epic collapse. Las Vegas had just a 2% win probability at the punt, and the Cowboys slammed the door shut, thanks in large part to Anger. And now on to our next topic. We're going to talk about 3 things that we learned about the Cowboys after their win against the Raiders. The Dallas Cowboys needed a win on Monday night against the Las Vegas Raiders. With the memory of fallen teammate Marshawn Kneeland on their minds, the Cowboys did just that, with a dominant 33-16 victory. That puts Dallas at 4-5-1 on the season. Now they enter a gauntlet of more challenging opponents, with the Eagles, Chiefs, and Lions on deck over the next several weeks. So the Cowboys won't likely look as impressive in the near future. With that being said, the NFL is a week-to-week league, and Dallas did what they had to do against an inferior opponent to gain some confidence for this upcoming stretch. So let's take a look at 3 things in particular that we learned from Dallas in this much needed victory. George Pickens opens up the Cowboys offense in so many ways. What's better than having 1 excellent wide receiver? 2. Pickens had yet another big-time performance against the Raiders. After he and CeeDee Lamb didn't play on the first possession due to a disciplinary matter, Pickens started to cook with fish grease. He finished with 9 receptions for 144 yards and a touchdown. What his play also did was open things for Lamb, who gained 66 yards on 5 receptions and had a score. Getting those 2 guys going and making the defense honest allows a guy like Quinnen Williams to eat in the running game, which he did last night with 93 yards on 22 carries. With Pickens and Lamb doing their thing, it also opens up the middle of the field for a guy like tight end Jake Ferguson or wide receiver Ryan Flournoy when Lamb is at the slot. Simply put, Pickens causes a number of issues for opposing defenses. Number 2, Quinnen Williams does the same as Pickens for the defensive side. The entire Cowboys fan base was elated when the team traded for Williams. In his first time on the field for Dallas, Williams wasn't just good, he was dominant. He finished with 4 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 5 quarterback hits, and 7 pressures. Williams and his full arsenal were on display as he took on double teams, constantly made Raiders quarterback Geno Smith move off his spot, and allowed guys like Kenny Clark, who recorded a half sack with Williams, and Osa Odorizzi, who recorded a sack, to flourish in one-on-one situations. This is why adding Williams to the roster was so important for the defensive side of the ball. In addition to helping Clark and Odorizzi, Williams gives edge rushers like Donovan Izaraku and James Houston more favorable matchups as well. What that does is allow linebackers to roam and cut down the amount of time cornerbacks have to cover. Williams is a force multiplier of the highest order. When the Cowboys took Carson in the 5th round in the 2024 NFL Draft, they thought that he would be the next piece in the cornerback room along with Trayvon Diggs and Daron Bland. Unfortunately, he battled injuries all year long and couldn't take off. After only playing on special teams in his first 2 appearances this season, Carson had a solid performance in the loss to the Arizona Cardinals, playing in zone and breaking on the ball. On Monday night, Carson was the only defensive player that played all 60 snaps for the Cowboys. Carson looked very sticky in coverage with 2 passes defended, and he looked good as a tackler. As a rookie, Carson didn't look like a confident player, and dealing with injuries didn't help. Now we've seen the confidence over the last 2 games, and if Carson can continuously play to the level and even higher, the Cowboys have found another late-round gem in the secondary. But while we've learned so much from this game about the Cowboys, we also have 3 questions from their Week 11 win over the Raiders. After a terrific Monday night victory in Las Vegas, the Cowboys have entered the second half of their 2025 season with some momentum. But there are still some big unknowns for this team going forward. Number 1, is it just too late? While we enjoyed the win, it still only brought the Cowboys record to 4-5-1. They're still just 10th in the NFC standings with the 9th place Panthers at 6-5 and holding a head-to-head tiebreaker. The last wildcard spot is currently held by the 7-4 49ers, so for some, if not many, Monday's victory may have offered little encouragement and even frustration over weekend 2026 draft picks. Still, unless you completely discount the Raiders as a credible opponent, what we saw in Vegas offered room for optimism. The defense did look better, and that was with completely new pieces or some existing ones in larger roles. And the offense against a Vegas defense that was middle of the road going into the game was firing on all cylinders once Lamb and Pickens were let out of the penalty box. Continued efforts like those from both sides of the ball could be enough to flip Dallas's performance from the first half of the year, making a final record of 9-7-1 reasonable. That's not going to win the NFC East, of course, but it's been good enough to snag the last wildcard spot in 3 of the last 4 seasons. There's still a big hole to dig out of, naturally, but the Cowboys took the right first step against the Raiders. So, second question. Should Pickens get receiver number 1 treatment? The beauty of this year's offense and Dak Prescott's masterful handling of it is that it really doesn't matter. He's doing an excellent job of taking what the defense gives, and sometimes that's going to bounce more Pickens' way than Lamb's, or vice versa. If Pickens keeps poisoning opponents, it may mean more opportunities for Ferguson, Turpin, or Flournoy going forward. While Pickens was sensational in Vegas, we know Lamb has that same gear. They've received fairly even workloads over the last few weeks. We're not used to the idea of having a shared number one crown in Dallas, having so often leaned on one franchise guy like Lamb, Dez Bryant, T.O., or Michael Irvin over the years. But this is a rare opportunity to enjoy the services of two truly elite receivers. So let's just sit back and enjoy it. Number 3, is Quinnen Williams really that great, or was it just the Raiders' O-line being that bad? Vegas has major blocking issues. We knew this going in, but for Williams to perform like that in his debut game and after sitting 2 weeks due to the Jets having their bye week at 9 was special stuff. We didn't see any learning curve or adjustment period, just a great player doing great things. The opponents certainly helped, but it's not like Kenny Clark or Osa Oduizi were showing off against other bad teams that Dallas has played so far this year. Williams is on another level from most defensive tackles that have come through Dallas, going back to the beginning of Jerry Jones' ownership, even when we've had some Pro Bowlers like a Russell Maryland or Leon Lett. How much of that was due to their actual greatness versus riding the Cowboys' popularity in the 90s? Dallas's defensive tackles, who are actually considered the best in the business, have been far and few between, and Williams walks in with that distinction. Yes, we need to see more from him against better offensive lines, but that sort of immediate impact doesn't happen in the pros unless you're pretty darn good, and Williams is a game changer. And before we go, we're going to take a look at 3 stars from the Cowboys' 33-16 win over the Raiders. The Dallas Cowboys have added several prominent players by external means since the offseason, and so far they have given the Cowboys a big boost to elevate the roster. No one looked happier to see it play out on the field than Cowboys owner Jerry Jones, brimming with excitement as he saw his roster additions crush the Las Vegas Raiders. With the win, Dallas moved just 1 game back of a .500 record, ahead of a pivotal home date against the Philadelphia Eagles. The offense provided several explosive plays in the passing game, and the offensive line dominated the line of scrimmage to open holes for Javonte Williams. Dallas's new-look defense grounded the Raiders' offense to easily cruise for the win on a night filled with emotions for America's team. So these are the prominent players who guided Dallas to their 4th win of the season. Starting off, of course, George Pickens. In a disciplinary move that was deemed a coach's decision, Lamb and Pickens started the game opening drive on the bench. As expected, the offense struggled, yet once Pickens got on the field, he was unstoppable. Like his counterpart, Pickens is a very quarterback-friendly target. He doesn't get enough credit for his intelligence and understanding when to throttle down routes in that soft spot of a zone defense. He was just in the right place at the right time all night. Pickens ran excellent patterns and got great releases off the line of scrimmage. You knew at some point he was going to score. Earlier in the game, Pickens made a great effort on a deep pass towards the end zone, hauling in the ball with one hand, but his feet were inches out of bounds. He stood up and motioned to the Raiders defender in coverage how close he was to a highlight reel play. Sure enough, he made one shortly thereafter and did so in style. On his 37-yard touchdown, Pickens did a great job of creating separation after the catch from Blue Kelly and then made a lateral cut to elude the defense for the touchdown. All night, Pickens was fighting off defenders and turning good gains into great ones. When Prescott needed to play, Pickens was his favorite target. The two connected for 9 receptions for 144 yards. We've seen enough. Open the wallet, pay the man. Number 2, Quinnen Williams. When you make a trade like the Cowboys did at the deadline, you're going to want to see an immediate return on investment. So far, Quinnen Williams has proved he was worth the cost of doing business. And the Cowboys are already starting to get what they paid for. Williams said that he picked up the team's playbook in a matter of days, and it showed as he was very comfortable acclimating himself on the field. Williams' power and quickness were too much for the Raiders to handle. Will Putnam was filling in at center for Jackson Powers Johnson, and Williams smelled blood in the water. Putnam and the Raiders' offensive line were outmatched by Williams' strength and gave Geno Smith nowhere to step up, giving Williams' defensive cohorts a chance to make the plays like when Williams drove Geno Smith back into the waiting arms of James Houston for a sack. Also, his impact in the running game helped the Cowboys make rookie running back Ashton Jeanty a non-factor. Jeanty rushed 6 times for a total of 7 yards. On the night, Williams had 1.5 sacks and 5 quarterback hits to cap off his Cowboys debut. So, on behalf of all of us, welcome to Dallas, Mr. Williams. And number 3, Dak Prescott. After an eventful few weeks for the Cowboys, they needed to come together as a team and win, knowing their leadership was going to be tested. Dak Prescott proved why he's the anchor for his team. After an early 3-and-out, and Prescott making the mistake of holding the ball too long, which allowed a forced fumble from Max Crosby. You started to wonder if things would get out of hand like they had in the weeks prior. Instead, Prescott righted the ship and caught fire conducting the offense. He made plays to escape the pocket and give receivers an extra moment to get open. Prescott was dialed in and picked apart the Raiders' secondary. He completed 4 touchdown passes to 4 different receivers and threw for 268 yards with a QBR of 86.7 and completing 75% of his passes. Prescott's hype for MVP has tapered off, coinciding with the team's recent losses, but these are the type of games that could see his name re-enter the conversation. More importantly, these are the games that the Cowboys will need from Prescott if they hope to pull off an improbable march to the postseason. And with that, that is all the topics we have for this episode. Give me your thoughts in the comments section below. And of course, if there's anything I got wrong, let me know. And if there's anything you want covered in a future episode, let me know. And of course, if you want to support the channel, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/thebigd. As always, your support helps the channel grow, upgrade our equipment, bring in new hosts, be able to pay them, and eventually take this show on the road. As always, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Fanatics. You can check out Fanatics using the link in the description today and get your great, amazing Cowboys merchandise from Fanatics, the one source that all Cowboy fans go to. So thank you so much for watching and listening. We will see you next week.